Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hello, my dear students. This is Mr. Muhammad Said, math instructor and in SAT and ACT. And here I'm with you with this lesson, very important lesson, the exponential functions. And we will make the three videos to summarize the session we did before in three parts. The first part is for the easy questions, then the middle ones, and then the hard ones. So starting with this file, it contains about 40 questions. Let's go through them step by step. But first of all, we need to explore what the exponential function means. So when we talk about exponential function, we have this equation. It can be written like this: y is equal to a times b to the power of x. So here we have some information. This y can be always replaced by f of x like this, or g of x, which is a form of a function. A is the initial amount, or at the beginning, or at the start, or maybe can be considered at y-intercept. And B here is the increasing or decreasing, which is called the rate. And then X is mostly for the time, or how many years passed from the beginning since the beginning of the experiment, for example. So every one of these letters is associated with something you can consider. So Y is always the total, maybe the total after a period of time, or maybe the balance after. But A is something in the beginning, or in the start, or at the initial period or initial phase, or maybe it's called y-intercept. Of course, when I say y-intercept, the form should be like this, not plus or minus something. It's in this form, which is the parent function. Then what is B? B is always associated with the word like rate, increased by, decreased by. And we can also consider increased by means 1 plus something percent. Decreased by 1 minus something percent. So we have to remember that. 1 minus is for decreasing, 1 plus, always we have 1. And this X is the time, or maybe how many time that this something happened. Also, sometimes the X can have a number below it, like C, for example. And when you have this C is how much time. When I say how much time, I mean this number that comes below the X here. Or maybe, let's say every or each. When I say, for example, every 7 years, this should be 7. If you have a number like 10 here, I say every 10 years. So that whatever the number comes below the X or in the denominator of X, this is associated with the word every or each. So this overview can help you too much to answer the questions that are coming in the easy part. And then we go to the middle and the hard, which have some other ideas to explore. Question number 1. F of x is equal to 9,000 times 0.66 all to the power of x. The given function f models the number of advertisements a company sent to its clients each year, where x represents the number of years since 1997. And x is between 0 and 5, or x is greater than or equal to 0 and less than or equal to 5. If y is equal to f of x is graphed in the xy plane, which of the following is the best interpretation? Be very careful about this word. Interpretation means the meaning. What is the meaning of the y-intercept? What does the y-intercept refer to? So if you go through this, remember that the y-intercept is here, as we mentioned. Y-intercept is the letter A, which is the coefficient, like this number. Of course, this is A. If you can consider the same function, this is y, this is A, this is B, and of course the exponent is x. So A is always the same as the y-intercept. So what is the interpretation of the y-intercept? It's 9,000. So 9,000 at the beginning, or at the starting, or at the initial. So we have always to consider all of these words. So let's go through the options. Is it the minimum estimated number of advertisement? the company sent to its clients during the first 5 years? During the 5 years, all the 5 years? Of course, no. And also this number is not the same as B or A, I mean. So A here is the y-intercept, which is 9,000. So 9,000 should be written in the option. Otherwise, it's not correct. Letter B, the minimum estimated number of advertisements the company sent to its clients during the 5 years. The number is okay, 9,000, but it's not during the 5 years. It should be in the starting of the 5 years, in the beginning of the period of 5 years, not the same as during the 5 years, which is misleading. Then the estimated number of advertisements the company sent to its clients in 1997 was this number. Of course, this number is not correct. The answer should be 9,000, not 1,708. So this one is incorrect. But look at letter C, letter B. The estimated number of advertisements the company sent to its clients in 1997 was 9,000. Yeah, 9,000 is the correct answer. And also in the 1997 is the starting. Look at this. Since 1997, it means this is the starting point. This is the initial period or initial phase or the beginning of the experiment. This is why letter D is the correct answer. So whenever you understand this, once you understand this, you can explain to yourself how to get A, how to get B, how to express every one of these words in the question when it comes to the question or the application. Question number 2, we have a table. And how can we get the equation from the table? The question says Rosa opened a savings account at a bank. The table shows the exponential relationship between the time t in years since Rosa opened the account and the total amount n in dollars in the account if Rosa made no additional deposits or withdrawals. Which of the following equations best represents this relationship between t and n? It means that we have to convert the table into an exponential function. So how can we do that? We just look at the 0. If you have a 0 here, you're lucky because this 0 is associated always with the y-intercept. So this is y-intercept. So whenever you write a function like y is equal to a times b to the power of x, this a should be the number which has a 0 as x value. So here 604 should be written instead of 8. So y should be always 604 times b to the power of x. And how can we get b? How can we guess b? If you look at these numbers are increasing, right? So 604 became 606.42. It's increasing. And 608.84, it's always increasing. So increasing means this b is 1 plus something, whatever this thing is. So 604 should be written in the beginning. And this number should be 1 point something. It cannot be, or 1 plus something. It cannot be 1 minus because the numbers are increasing. So 1 plus is okay. 1 plus, all of them are 1 plus, but 1 plus what? If you want to get the answer, of course, we need to look at 604 first. 604 should be in the beginning. I mean, outside like this. So of course, the letter C is the answer because this is the only one. But how can we know that 1 plus 0.004? Just subtract these numbers to get the difference between them and then divide by the original one. But here we don't need to do that because we have only 604 as the initial amount, which is associated with the 0. This is called the y-intercept, and the question starts with the y-intercept. So we write 604 in the beginning, which is the only answer, letter C. Here we have another table, and also we have 4 options for the exponential function g. The table shows 4 values of x and their corresponding values of g of x. Which equation defines g? So here the numbers are decreasing. If you can look at this, this is 25, became 0, became 1. So decreasing. Decreasing means the number that comes between the parentheses should be less than 1 or 1 minus something. Okay, it should be less than 1. So here, what is the beginning? I mean, y is equal to something here. This thing should be always the number with the 0, so 1. And of course, 1 times anything is the same as the same thing, and the exponent is x. So how can we write this? This is 1, and this number here should be smaller than 1. What number here is less than 1 in the parentheses? I mean the base. The base here is 25, which is greater than 1. So this is incorrect. 1 over 25, but this is negative. The 1 is not a negative number. This should be a positive 1. So this negative number makes the option incorrect. And here 25 is a greater number than 1. So this number is smaller than 1. 1 over anything other than 1, other than 0, is always smaller than 1. So this number is less than 1. So this is the answer. You can also get this number by maybe dividing everyone by the previous one. But this is the best way to think about it, about the question. So we have the 0 and 1. 1 should be written here, not negative 1, not negative 1. And the numbers are increasing, so 25, decreasing, 25 became 1, and then became 1 over 25, which is a very small number, and so on. So the numbers are decreasing. This is why we choose a number here less than 1. And the only number less than 1 in these two remaining options is letter D. And here we have another table. The table shows the exponential relationship between the number of years X since Hannah started training in the pole valet. And the estimated height H in meters of her best pole valet for that year. Which of the following functions best represents this relationship where T or X is less than or equal to 4? Don't worry about this now. Just focus on the table. If you have a 0, this number is always A. So when you write the function y is equal to, or as you can see, h of x instead of y, that's okay. H of x is equal to A times B to the power of x. So we just raise A and write the y-intercept. Y-intercept is the number which has a 0 as an x value. So 1.23 should be written here. And B should be maybe written inside the parentheses. So 1.23 should be in the beginning of the answer. This is not 1.23, not 1.23. Here it is. So we choose either C or D, but we just cancel these. And then look at the numbers. Are they increasing or decreasing? This was 1.23, 1.54, increasing. So when the numbers are increasing, the values of y are increasing. This should be greater than 1, greater than 1. Here is smaller than 1. This is 0 point something. 0 point something, it's decreasing. But 1 point something is more than 1, which allows us to choose letter D. Here, what is the y-intercept? Y-intercept of the graph shown, the y-intercept here is the number where the graph intersects the y-axis. This is called the y-axis. Here, and we have this graph right here. Where did they meet? They have met at this point, -6. So -6 is the y-intercept. But when you write the y-intercept, look at this. When I say y-intercept, we always write the x first, x and y. Y-intercept, as we told you in this previous question, y-intercept is always associated with x as 0. So we have 0 instead of x. And because this is called y-intercept, so the number should be written in the y coordinate, which is -6. So 0 and -6 is our y-intercept, not -6 and 0. Be careful to write the y value in the y coordinate. Okay, so this is -6 right here. Question number 6. A certain college had 3,000 students enrolled in 2015. This is the beginning. In 2015, we start at 2015, which means we have to write this instead of 8. So y is equal to 3,000 instead of 8. And then we can think about b to the power of x. We can think about everything. The college predicts that after 2015, the number of students enrolled each year will be 2% less. Remember that. When you say 2% less, or 2% fewer, or less by 2%, decreased by 2%, all these are the same meaning. Means 1 minus 2%. And when you try to use the calculator to find the value of this, 1 minus 2%, you can just write it like this. 1 minus 2% is this shift with this button right here, equals, and then put SD. You can get 0.98. 0.98 should be written here inside these parentheses, which makes the answer letter D. It's obvious, the correct answer. So here, 3,000 should be written in the beginning, which is A, because we started at an amount of 3,000. And then we need to use this verb. 2% less means 1 minus 2%. You can use the calculator, or you can think about 1 as 100% minus 2%. And 100%, of course, means 100 over 100 if you want to calculate it using your hand. 2% means 2 over 100, and when you subtract the numerators, you can get 98, and the denominators is always the same. 98 over 100 means 0.98, which is here, as you can see, the only one that gets the answer. So D is the correct answer. Number 7, f of x is equal to this. The function f of x gives the company's predicted annual revenue in dollars x years after the company started selling light bulbs online, where x is between 0 and 10 inclusively. What is the best interpretation of the statement? F of 5 is approximately equal to this. Here, the same idea we can consider. F of 5 instead of f of x. So x here is replaced with 5. So x became 5. And we can write big x as well. Search in the question x what? X years. So we can say x years is 5 years. Instead of x, instead of this x, we write 5. So instead of x years, we can say 5 years. 5 years should be in the options here. And then this number is always the value of f. Is approximately equal to this. This is the total, should be replaced with f. And f here is the function, what the function predicts, the annual revenue in dollars. So this number should be in dollars. $518,748. So search for these two pieces of information in the options, and you can get the answer. 5 years, that's good. After the company started selling light bulbs online, its predicted annual revenue is approximately this amount of money in dollars. That's correct one. That's perfect. That's one. That's the one we are searching for. Why not B? Because 5 years, it says increased by approximately this. That's not increasing. Increase means always the number that comes inside. It should be increasing by 21%, not by this amount. So it's not increased by. It should be the final answer, the total after the company started, or after maybe 5 years, as the question says. So B is not correct. C, when the company's predicted annual revenue is approximately this, yes, it's okay. Now this is good, dollars. It's 5 times. No, it's not 5 times. It should be 5 what? It should be 5 years. So that's misleading choice, letter C. D, when the company's predicted annual revenue is approximately this amount of money, 5%, no, 5% is not the correct answer. 5 is instead of x, which is this number, 5 years. So x is always written in years, not percentage. The percent here is 21%, not 5%. So the answer is letter A. Number 8, a model predicts that the population of Bergen was 15,000 in 2005. The model also predicts that each year, for the next 5 years, the population P increased by 4%. So remember that this is the initial amount in 2005, because we start with this. This is the beginning. So y is equal to a times b to the power of x. A is this number. Y is expressed here as p, which is okay. So we can replace y with p. A is the initial amount, which is 15,000. And b is associated with this, increased by 4%, 1 plus 4%. And in the exponent, we just write x. So what is 1 plus 4%? 1 plus 4% is 1.04. 1.0, whenever you have a number with 1 digit plus 1, write 1 plus 0.04. So the answer is 1.04. But if this 4 becomes 14, for example, 14%, you just say 1.14. So if you have a number with 2 digits, just write them after the point. If it's 1 digit, put a 0 before you write the answer. Or if you are confused about this one, you can just use the calculator to put this, and you get the answer 1.04. So 15,000, 1.04 raised to the power of x, which is written here, letter D. Number 9, in this function, the function above gives the company's predicted annual revenue in dollars X years of the same idea here. F of 5 is this amount, the same. I just repeated the idea in order for you to remember or to practice more and more. 5 is instead of X, and X is the number of years, so we have to write 5 years. And this is amount of money after. So here in dollars, so this number, dollars. Search for that in the context, because the question says what is the best interpretation or meaning of that. 5 years, yes, that's good. Okay, after the company started selling jewelry online, its predicted annual revenue is approximately, of course, this is the answer. Very similar to the previous question, and the same, everything is exactly the same. Increased by, not the correct answer. Here, 5 times is not the same. 5%, of course, is not the correct one. Number 10, the number of bacteria in a liquid medium doubles every year. So remember that the word doubles is to replace this B by 2. When I say tripled, when I say tripled, this B will be 3. Quadrupled, it will be 4, and so on. So we are focusing on the word double. So this number between the parentheses should be 2. Should be 2 for the sake of this word. Doubles every year. So this number between the parentheses should be 2, which is the only answer here, letter D. And of course, this amount, there are 44,000 bacteria in the liquid medium at the start. So in the starting, we have to replace A with this number. So we choose 44,000 over anything else. That was the answer of question 10. Here we have the y-intercept highlighted, and the question says the graph of the exponential function f is shown where y is equal to f of x. The y-intercept of the graph is 0 and y. Of course, 0 and y. But 0 and what? Let's zoom in to see 0 and 3. Of course, this is 3. So 0 and 3, of course, we cannot, in the exam, we cannot write something like this. We are not allowed to write parentheses, commas, anything in the free response type of questions. We know that we have 2 types of questions in SAT. The free response like this, where you have to write a number, maybe a fraction, a decimal, or a whole number. Maybe you can write the negative sign, but you cannot write something like squares, square brackets, parentheses, braces, commas, percentage, square root. All of these are not allowed in the free response questions. Okay, so you are free to write numbers, but anything else is not accepted. The question says, what is the value of y? Y only. So we know that this is, okay, 0 and 0 and 3. So we cannot write 0 and 3, just write 3 because the question asks about the value of y. Question number 12. The function f is defined by this. What is f of 0? F of 0, look at this. F of x is replaced by f of 0, which means that x is replaced with 0. You have to do the same in the right side. So 270 times 0.1 to the power of 0. And of course, anything raised to the power of 0 is equal to 1. So 270 times 1, which is equal to 270. That's the answer. You can also find the answer without all of that. You can think about f of 0 as the y-intercept. Guys, always f of 0 means y-intercept. And as I told you, where is y-intercept? It's always the number that comes before. For the A, I mean the value of A is always the y-intercept, which is 270. Here also the y-intercept is 11. So when the question says find in the given function g is graph in the xy plane where y is equal to g of x, what is the y-intercept? The same idea. Y-intercept is always this number, but you have to write 0 and this number. So keep the number in the y coordinate and write 0 and 11, letter A. Question 14, an investment account was opened with an initial value. Initial means A. So y is equal to A times B to the power of x. Instead of y, the question is free to choose something instead of y. It's choosing m of t. No problem about that. M of t is equal to A, which is the initial. So initial here is 890 times B is the what happens to this amount. Of course, in the banks, they are increasing. It says the amount, the value in the account doubled. As you told you, doubled means always write 2 in the side the parentheses. And here we write something above. Every 10 years. Remember when I say every, we cannot write x only. We have to write x over 10 because this word is every or each, as you can. If you can go back to the very beginning of the session, I said any number below x is associated with the word every. So here when I say every 10 years, I have to write 10 below the value of x. Okay, so this is why we have to write 10 down here because the question says every 10 years. So that's our answer. 890 times 2 to the power of x. 890 is always written in the options, okay? But you have to write 2 inside. Yeah, here is 2, and here is, of course, the only 2 given here, letter C. Question number 15. The equation, the given equation gives the estimated number of employees at a restaurant where T is the number of years since the restaurant opened. Which of the following is the best interpretation of the 5 in this context? This 5 is what? Of course, this is written as y is equal to a times b to the power of x. A is the initial, which is 5, is the initial, the starting point at the beginning, y-intercept, when x is equal to 0, all of this information is related to this 5. So here the estimated number of employees when the start opened, when the restaurant opened, which means that in the beginning. Of course, that's the correct answer. Not the increase, not the number of years. It's not the number of years, of course. This has to take the unit of E. E gives the number of employees. So this will be also a number of employees, not the number of years. Number of employees was 5 at the beginning of this period of time. Why the percent increase? Of course, percent increase is something inside, not at the value of A. This one needs the y-intercept. Of course, the same idea. I think this question is repeated. This is 3, so 0 and 3, but you just write 3 in the answer. Question number 17. The population of a town is currently means initially, starting with this 50,000. So 50,000 should be in the beginning of the question. I mean, like this or like this. So we have to choose one of these over anything else. And the population is estimated to increase each year by 3%. Increase by 3% means 1 plus 3%. And you know 1 plus 3% and 1 is 1.03. So this number should be written inside the parentheses. 1.03 is here, not C. This is 0.03. So always increased by means 1 plus. Decreased by 1 minus. So always consider 1 when you see a percentage and a word like increased by or decreased by or greater or less. Question number 18. For the function q, the value of q of x decreases by 45%. And here, for every increase of the value of x by 1, if q of 0 is equal to 14, q of 0 is equal to 14, this is the y-intercept. Y-intercept is always related to the 0 as a value of x. So this is y-intercept, and of course, we know that y-intercept is a. And then we have b to the power of x. A is the number that comes with 0. So this should be 14. Y is equal to 14. Y here is replaced by q of x. It's okay. Don't worry about this. B is decreased by 45%, which means 1 means 1 minus 45%. And then the x comes up in the exponent. You can use the calculator to write this part only. 1 minus 45%, 1 minus 45, and percentage can be written like this, 45. And you can get the answer as decimal 0.55. So the answer, the equation should be y is equal to 14 times 0.55 to the power raised to the power of x, which is given here, letter C. That's how to write the interpretation or the equation itself. Question number 19, a function P estimates that there were 2,000 animals in a population in 1998. Each year from 1998, which is the initial, I mean, this is the starting. But what is the result of the starting? We have 2,000. So this is the initial amount when we started observation. So This is a, so y is equal to a times b to the power raised to the power of x. So this a is 2000. So y is equal to 2000, and y is expressed as p of x. It's okay, but 2000 should be in the beginning. Of course, all of them are giving 2000 as a value of a. So we need to work with the number that comes inside the parentheses. And this is always associated with increasing or decreasing. Increased by 3%, 1 plus 3%. Of course, we write x here. 1 plus 3% means 1.03. 1 plus 3% is 1.03, because this is only one digit to the power of x, and we have 2000 out here, which means the answer is letter C. What if I change this word and made it decreased by? It will be 1 minus 3%, and in that case, the answer would be this one. But now in question number 19, the answer is C. Our question number 20, there were no jackrabbits in Australia before 1788, where 24 jackrabbits were introduced by introduced is in 1788. By 1920, the population of jackrabbits had reached 10 billion. If the population had grown exponentially, this would correspond to 16.2% increase on average in the population each year. Which of the following functions best models the population of jackrabbits T years after this? T years means from 1788 as an initial amount, initial starting point, and we had 24 in the beginning. So how to write the equation? A times t to the power of x. A is the initial, and the initial was this. Nothing before this date. And then we started with 24. So write 24 in the beginning. Of course, this is not 24. 24 is here or here. So maybe you choose one of these. But how to express the increase? Increase by 16.2%, which means 1 plus 16.2%. If you just put this on the calculator, you can say 1 plus 16.2, and the percentage is here. And you can get the number in SD. 1.162 is given here. Okay, so that's the answer. Why not D? Because the T controls both of them here. No, of course, it should be controlling only B. The exponent T or X is always in the above the B, not above the A. Here, it's considered above both of them, which is incorrect. Question number 21. Yeah, here the graph of the rational function f is shown where y is equal to f of x. Which of the following is the graph of y is equal to f of x plus 5? Plus 5 outside here means it moved up 5 units, moving up. When this number is plus, move up. So how can we find the answer exactly the same as your answer? Maybe you can choose a point, like maybe this point is okay. 2 and 5. We have to move it 5 steps up because we have plus 5. So instead of 2 and 5, we make 2 and 10. So the point should be 2 and 10. 2 and 10 in the options, if you just look at the options here, this is not 2 and 10. 2 and 10 is not here. 2 and 10 is here, not in the graph. 2 and 10 is here, it's not on the graph. 2 and 10 is not here also, this is 2 and 5. But here, 2 and 10 is on this graph, which means this one is the movement 5 steps up. This is why we have to choose letter B, the correct graph here, after the movement of 5 steps up. So we can also consider moving the graph itself 5 steps up to be something like this. It's above the original graph, which is letter B. Question 22. The function f is defined by this. Here, what is the y-intercept? Here, guys, don't say y-intercept is -8 because we have this number. So y-intercept in this case, we can explain in another way. You have to replace x with 0. So whenever you have y-intercept and you have something after the function, replace x with 0. So -8 times 2 to the power of 0 plus 22. You can calculate this by the calculator, or you can think about this as 1. Anything raised to the power of 0 is equal to 1. So -8 times 1 is -8, and -8 plus 22 is equal to what? is equal to 14. So the y-intercept is 14. Of course, the point should be written as 0 and 14, which is the letter A. Here as well, we need the y-intercept. Of course, this point, let's zoom in to find it. It's -5. Between -4 and -6, it should be -5 in the y value. So 0 and -5, letter B. And number 24, we have this function written here. And the question says, an entomologist recommended a program that reduced a certain invasive beetles population in an area. The given function estimates this beetle species population X years after 2012, where X is less than or equal to 7. Which of the following is the best interpretation of 4,000? 4,000 is here the initial, at the beginning of the process, which is at 2012 itself. Nothing, no years after that. This is the beginning. We started at 2012 and we calculated the number of years after that. So 2012 is the initial time. So you have to say that we have 4,000 and 4,000 what? 4,000, let's say, animals or beetles. But in 2012, search for this meaning in the options. The estimated initial, yeah, of course, this is the initial beetle population for the species area in 2012. That's the correct one. Why not B? Because here, 7 years. How 7 years? It should be the 4,000 is always the beginning, at the beginning, not 7 years. It's 0 years. Letter C, the population and yeah, this is the estimated percent decrease. Percent of decrease, of course, is not this. It should be 0.75, not 4,000. The question asks about 4,000. Letter D, percent decrease, of course, that's not the same. So you have to choose letter A. Question number 25. How much time? That's the word to highlight. That's expression to highlight. How much time? If you go back to the very beginning of the lesson, how much time is always the number that comes below the X. So get back to question 25. Below X, we have this number, 790. So when I say how much time? 790, that's it. So the answer is 790, regardless anything else in the question. Question number 26. Here, what is the meaning of P of 8 is equal to this? So P of 8 instead of P of T, so T is 8. What is T in the question? T is the number of years after 1984. So instead of T, we write 8, and you can say 8 years after 1984. Search for this in the options, and also this number should be the P, which is the population. And we have 32.91 as the population. So let's search for this information inside the options. In 1984, of course, this is not correct. It should be 8 years after 1984 because we have 8 here. 8 years after 1984, which makes this incorrect. In 1984, also not the same. 8 years after 1984, that's it. And sometimes it gives you 1992, which is the same meaning, because if you add 8 years to this year, it will be 1992. So that's okay. And this will be 32.91 million, because yeah, that's okay. This is in millions, as you can see. So we can choose letter C. Why not D? Because this number of years, of course, not number of years. 32.91 is the number of the, let's say, population. I mean, the population or the number of people predicted to be there after 8 years. Question 27. We have this exponential function, and the question says the function S above models the annual salary in dollars of an employee n years after starting a job, where A is the constant. If the employee's salary increased by 4%, how can we get the value of A? Increased by 4% means 1.04. So this A should be written like this. So of course we write S of n is equal to A times B raised to the X. So A is the number given here, 38,000. And B is the increasing. Increasing by 4% means 1 plus 4% raised to the power of n, and the question says n here. So this is A. This is letter A. So A is 1 plus 4%, and 1 plus 4% is equal to 1.04. So A here should be replaced by 1.04, which is letter A. Number 28, maybe similar idea. What is the best interpretation of 3000? 3000 is the beginning or the starting or the initial. Beginning where? If you read the question, a conservation scientist implemented a program to reduce the population of a certain species in an area. The given function estimates the species population X years after 2008. So at 2008 itself, it was the initial, which is 3000. So 3000 in the beginning, and then we decrease the number. So 3000 happens when? At 2008. 3000 what? 3000, the population, 3000 maybe species, animals, whatever. So the estimated percent decrease, of course, it's not percent decrease. This 3000 is not percent decrease. Also, this one is not correct. The estimated population, yeah, it's a population for the species area 8 years after 2008. Of course, not 8 years. It should be at 2008, in 2008, because this is the beginning. So in 2008 is correct. That's the initial. You say the word initial here means the beginning. So this is A, always associated with the word initial. Letter D is the correct one. Here, the equation above estimates the global data traffic D in terabytes for the year that is T years after 2010. What is the best interpretation of the number this? Number is in the beginning. So it means we have this in the same, let's say, same units, terabytes. So we can say 5,640 terabytes in 2010. Not anything, not any years after this, in the beginning, because we always consider it the initial in 2010. Search for this in the options. The estimated amount of increase, of course, it's not increased. Percent increase, of course, not increased. The estimated traffic, data traffic in terabytes, yes, for the year that is T years after, of course, not T years. It should be in 2010, which is here in 2010. And this is in terabytes. So the answer is letter D, taking this into consideration. And then question number 30, a sample of a certain isotope takes 29 years to decay to half its original mass. This is called the half-life, if you remember it in chemistry. The function S of t is equal to 184 times 0.5 to the power of t over 29, gives the approximation mass of this isotope in grams that remains T years after 184 gram sample started to decay. Which statement is the best interpretation of this? So S of 87 is replaced with this number, with the S of t, I mean. S of 80. So 87 is replacing t. So t is what? What is t? T years. So we can say 87 years. So we can write here 87 years after the starting of the observation. So the answer is 23. What is 23? The S, the result. So the function would be 23 grams. So it gives the approximate mass of this in grams. So 23 grams after 87 years. These are the information. So approximately 23 grams. Yeah, that's good. 23 grams of sample remain 87 years after the sample started to decay. That's the correct one. Why not B? Because 23 grams, the question said that the mass of the sample has decreased. No, not decreasing. It's the answer should be 23 grams, not decreasing by 23. And why not C? The mass decreased also. This is a misleading one. Letter D, 87 grams? Of course not. 87 should be years, not grams. And this is the opposite, should be the opposite. Letter D is not correct. Here we need to get the y-intercept. Of course, this is 0 and 1. Question 32. The function P gives the estimated number of marine mammals in a certain area before T, where T is the number of years since a study began. What is the best interpretation of P of 0 equals to Z? P of 0 is always the y-intercept. So this is the y-intercept, which is the initial, the starting, or at the beginning, and so on. The estimated number of marine mammals in the area was 102. When the study began, yeah, this is okay, when the study began, but what is 102? The question talks about 1,800, so this is not correct. The word is okay, began, but the number is not okay. Letter B, the estimated number of marine mammals in the area was 1,800, yes. When the study began, that's the correct one, regardless anything else. So it's not 102, it's not each year, it's at the beginning of the experiment. 33, we have a table. How to find the table that is suitable for this equation? We can think about the y-intercept. This is the y-intercept. So whenever you have 0, we have to write 0 with 32. So search for in the tables to find this point. 0 and 32 this is not correct. This is 0 and 0. This is 0 and 2. This is 0 and 32, or this is 0 and 32. So we can eliminate this and this. So this should be 0 and 32. But after that, how can we differentiate between C and D? Of course, we cannot try 1 because 1 gives you 64 in both. So try to use -1 instead of x. So here we can write q of x is equal to 32 times 2 to the power of -1. Replace x with -1. If the answer is 1 over 16, choose this. If the answer is 16, choose this. Let's use the calculator for this one. Just write the right part, not q of x. 32. Open the parentheses and write 2 inside, and then go up to the exponent, write -1, and the answer will be 16. 16 means the answer is letter D. That's how to work with the question. Okay. And then question number 34. At the time of posting a video, a social media channel had 53 subscribers. Each day for 5 days after the video was posted, the number of subscribers doubled. Yes, doubled means that the number inside the parentheses should be 2. So whatever the number here, the 2 is inside the parentheses. And it's always only mentioned here in letter B. So B is the correct answer. Which equation models the subscription? That's the answer. So 2 inside the parentheses means doubled. Okay, question number 35. From 2005 to 2014, the number of CDs sold in the United States declined. Be careful about this word declined. Declined means decreased. Decreased by 15%, which means 1 minus 15%. If you put this on the calculator or you just think about it in your mind, it will be 0.85. So this 0.85 should be the base, below the exponent. I mean, here we have a number in the beginning. The number maybe, yeah, it's mentioned here, approximately sold in the United States in 2005 at the beginning. I mean, in the beginning, we put this number 600, so 600 should be written here. And then 0.85 should be written inside the parentheses because this is associated with the percentage, and then the time up written as t. So that's the answer. 600, 0.85, not 1.85, of course, because this is decreasing. Declined means 1 minus. So the answer is letter B. Question 36. The graph gives the estimated number of catalogs Y in thousands. A company sent it to its customers at the end of each year, where X represents the number of years since the end of 1992, where X is between 0 and 10. Which statement gives the best interpretation of the y-intercept? So we have to search for the y-intercept in the question. And of course, the y-intercept is something here. It's about 9. But 9 what? 9 what? Y-intercept means the Y is the number of catalogs. So we can say that we have 9 catalogs. But catalogs is just S. Why we write 9 catalogs? Because 0 and 9. And 9 is Y, and the Y here is the catalogs. But this is at the beginning. Where at the beginning? At the beginning is the number of years since the end of 1992. This is the beginning. So we can say at the end of 1992. So these are the two pieces of information we have to search for. But be careful, in thousands. So this 9 should be 9,000. 9,000 catalogs. Look at, search for 9,000 catalogs. Yeah, it's 9,000 here. And the number of catalogs, the question says the estimated total number of catalogs the company sent to its customers during the first 10 years. This is not correct. It's not during the first year, for the first 10 years. It should be at the end of 1992. So this is not correct. The estimated total number of catalogs the company sent to its customer from the end, yes, 1992 to the end of 2002. Of course, no. And also this number is not correct. Should not be 90. It should be 9,000. Letter C, the estimated number of catalogs the company sent to its customers at the end of 1992. Yes, that's correct. Was 9? It should be not 9. It should be 9,000 because the question mentions the in thousands, which makes letter D the correct option. The estimated number of catalogs the company sent to its customers at the end of 1992. Yes, as we mentioned here, was 9,000 catalogs, which is letter D. 37. Yeah, the question says the graph of y is equal to f of x is shown, where f of x is equal to a b to the power of x plus c. A, b, and c are constants. For how many values of f of x does f of x is equal to 0? Guys, f of x is equal to 0 means the x-intercept. F of x equals 0 is this line right here. It's called f of x is equal to 0. The x-intercept itself has this equation, and the y-intercept has another equation which is equal, x is equal to 0. So when I say f of x is equal to 0, this line, where did this line intersect with the graph? How many points? Of course, this cannot pass through this line. They cannot ever interact or intersect. So we have 0 points at which the graph intersects with this line. Whenever you move right here and you move this line has a maximum. It does not have a maximum, but it approaches a line, but it cannot exceed that line. So 0 points because we have no intersection between the graph and the line here. Question 38, we are looking at this function, and the question says the function f models the intensity of an X-ray beam in number of particles in the X-ray beam T millimeters below the surface of a sample of iron. According to the model, what is the estimated number of particles in the X-ray beam when it is at the surface? At the surface means this is let's say the surface of the iron. We have a beam moving through this, and then it moves through the solid here. When it's starting the surface, this is the beginning. Beginning means initial, which is 500. 500 what? 500 particles. So it should be in the number of particles in the XY. So 500 should be the answer, because at the surface means in the beginning, before going through the solid itself. Here the question says, what is the x-coordinate of the x-intercept? X-intercept here is 6 and 0. If you write 6 and 0, we don't need to write all of this in the options, as we mentioned before. We need only the x value, or the x-coordinate, which is 6. Question 40 is the last one here, and the question says for a function f, the function f is defined above. What is the value of f of 2? F of 2 means replace this x with 2. So 2 times 3 raised to the 2. And of course, don't multiply 2 by 3, because 3 is busy with the exponent. And of course, the exponent is prioritized over the multiplication. So 3 to the power of 2 is 9. And we have 2 times 9, which is equal to 18. 18 is our correct answer. I hope you understand this part, and waiting for you to see the other video that contains the medium level of questions. See you later. Thank you very much. Bye.